All right, my lovely food lovers, let's talk about lasagna. It's one of those dishes that everyone adores, isn't it? A proper hug in a bowl full of comforting layers and cheesy goodness. But have you ever wondered where this amazing dish actually comes from? It's got a bit of a surprising story, older than you might think. It didn't just pop up in Italy fully formed with that rich ragu we all know and love. No, its roots go way, way back, even before Roman times. Some say the ancient Greeks had a flatbread called laganon, which sounds a bit familiar, eh? It was a simple, unleavened bread, often cut into strips. So the idea of layered food started a long, long time ago, which is pretty cool. Now, fast forward a bit to ancient Rome, they had something called lasanum, which was the name for the cooking pot itself. Interesting, right? So the name might have come from the pot, not the dish. The Romans were big fans of layered dishes too. They would often layer different ingredients in these pots. We don't have exact recipes from that super early period that look like our modern lasagna, but the concept of layering, of building up flavors in a dish was definitely there. It shows that good ideas in food often stick around and change over time. It's all about evolution, just like with so many brilliant things in life. Then, as we move into the Middle Ages in Italy, things start to look a bit more familiar. We begin to see the first written recipes for something that resembles lasagna. One of the earliest recorded recipes, found in a 14th century English cookbook, surprisingly, described a layered pasta dish. But even the early Italian versions were often quite different from what we eat today. They might not have had tomatoes, for example, because tomatoes only came to Europe from the Americas much later, around the 16th century. Imagine lasagna without that lovely tomato sauce. It just goes to show how dishes travel and transform, picking up new bits along the way. So, the lasagna we know and devour today, especially the rich, meaty version from Emilia-Romagna with its bechamel and ragu, is a more modern masterpiece. It truly became the icon it is with the inclusion of tomatoes, which added that beautiful sweetness and acidity. It spread across Italy with different regions putting their own lovely twists on it. And then, of course, Italian immigrants took this incredible dish all over the world. Now it's a global superstar, a symbol of comforting, delicious, homemade food. And that, my friends, is something truly special. It's a dish with a fantastic journey. Right then, if we're going to make a truly pukka lasagna, we need to talk about the star ingredients. These are the bits that make all the difference, the foundations of your flavor skyscraper. First up, let's chat about lasagna sheets. You can get dried ones, which are brilliant and easy to find, or if you're feeling a bit fancy, fresh pasta sheets are absolutely gorgeous. They cook a bit quicker and have a lovely, delicate texture. Some sheets even say no pre-cook, which can be a time saver, but make sure your sauce is nice and moist if you use those. Quality really matters here, so get the best you can. Next up, we need to talk about the mince, or ground meat, as some of you call it. For a classic rich ragu, a mix of beef and pork is fantastic. The beef brings that deep, savory flavor, and the pork adds a bit of lovely fat and sweetness. Some people even add a touch of veal for extra tenderness. If you're not a meat eater, don't you worry. You can make an incredible vegetarian lasagna with mushrooms, lentils, or roasted veggies. The key is to choose good quality mince with a decent amount of fat, because that's where a lot of the flavor lives. Don't skimp on this, my friends. Now let's move on to the tomatoes. These are absolutely crucial for that rich, tangy sauce that we all dream about. Good quality canned tomatoes are your best friend here. Look for San Marzano tomatoes if you can find them. They're sweet and less acidic, just beautiful. You can use whole peeled tomatoes that you crush yourself, or good quality chopped tomatoes or passata. Passata gives you a lovely smooth base. If tomatoes are in season and bursting with flavor, you could even use fresh ones, but you'll need to cook them down a bit longer. The tomatoes are the soul of the ragu, so treat them with respect. And finally, the creamy dream itself, bechamel sauce. Oh, I love a good bechamel. This classic white sauce adds such a beautiful, luxurious texture and richness to your lasagna. It's made from simple ingredients: butter, plain flour, and milk. A little grating of nutmeg in there takes it to another level, trust me. Some people skip the bechamel, but for me, it's what makes a lasagna truly special and comforting. It helps bind everything together and gives you those lovely, distinct layers. It's not tricky to make, you just need a bit of patience and a good whisk. We'll get to that. Okay, we've got our main players sorted, but there are a few more brilliant bits that will take your lasagna from good to absolutely mind-blowing. Let's talk cheese. Glorious cheese. You can't have a proper lasagna without it. For me, you need two types. First, Parmesan cheese or Parmigiano Reggiano if you want the real deal. Get a block and grate it yourself. It tastes so much better than the pre-grated stuff. This adds a salty, nutty, umami punch. Then you need some lovely mozzarella for that gorgeous, melty, stringy topping. Fresh mozzarella is fantastic, but a good quality, low-moisture one works brilliantly too. Cheese is happiness, people. Next up, the foundation of so many amazing Italian dishes, the sofrito. This is just a fancy word for a mix of finely chopped onions, carrots and celery. These humble veggies, when sweated down slowly in a bit of olive oil, create an incredible base layer of flavor for your ragu. Don't rush this step. Take your time, chop them nice and small, and let them get soft and sweet. Garlic is another essential here, adding that lovely aromatic kick. Some people add it with the sofrito, others a bit later. Either way, make sure it's in there. It's these simple things that build up complex, delicious tastes. Herbs and spices are your secret weapons for adding depth and aroma. For the ragu, a bay leaf is a must while it simmers away. Dried oregano is classic, and a sprinkle of fresh basil at the end, or even stirred into the sauce, is just lovely. Some like a pinch of chili flakes for a little bit of warmth. And, as I mentioned, for the bechamel, a fresh grating of nutmeg is absolutely key. It adds a warm, slightly sweet and spicy note that complements the creamy sauce beautifully. Don't be shy with your herbs, but remember, fresh herbs are often best added towards the end of cooking to keep their vibrant flavor. Lastly, let's not forget a couple of essentials for the cooking process itself. Good quality olive oil is a must, preferably extra virgin, for cooking your sofrito and browning your mince. It adds its own lovely, fruity note. And then a little splash of wine in your ragu can really elevate things. A glug of red wine with beef mince adds incredible depth and richness. If you're using pork or chicken, a splash of white wine works beautifully too. The alcohol cooks off, leaving behind a wonderful, concentrated flavor. It's these little touches that professional chefs use to make their dishes sing, and you can too. Right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty of the pasta sheets, or noodles as some of you call them. If you're using dried lasagna sheets, most of the time you'll need to give them a quick boil first. Get a really big pot of water on the go and make sure you salt it well. Think salty like the sea, that's what the Italians say. This seasons the pasta from the inside out. Once it's bubbling away fiercely, drop your pasta sheets in a few at a time so they don't stick together. Cook them until they are al dente, which means they're cooked through but still have a little bite. You don't want them mushy. To stop those lovely sheets from becoming a sticky mess, there are a couple of tricks. When they're cooked, carefully lift them out with a slotted spoon or spider. Some people add a tiny drizzle of olive oil to the cooking water, but I prefer to lay them flat on a clean, slightly oiled baking tray or tea towel once they're out of the water. This keeps them separated and ready for layering. Don't just dump them in a colander or you'll end up with a giant pasta clump, and nobody wants that. A little care here goes a long way, my friends. Now, if you're using fresh lasagna sheets, which are absolutely gorgeous, things are often a bit simpler. Many fresh pasta sheets don't need pre-boiling at all. How good is that? They're more delicate and will cook perfectly in the oven, absorbing moisture from your lovely sauces. Always check the packet instructions though, as some fresh types might still recommend a very quick blanch. The beauty of fresh pasta is its texture and how quickly it cooks, making your lasagna assembly even quicker. It's a great option if you can find good quality fresh sheets or even fancy making your own. And what about those no pre-cook or oven-ready dried lasagna sheets? These can be a real time saver and they do work pretty well. The trick with these is to make sure your ragu and bechamel sauces have plenty of moisture. These sheets absorb a lot of liquid as they cook in the oven. If your sauces are too thick or dry, your lasagna might end up a bit stiff. So if you're going down the no-boil route, just be generous with your lovely sauces, ensuring there's enough liquid for the pasta to cook through beautifully and become tender. It's all about balance. Section 5, sauce sensation, the heart of your lasagna. Okay team, let's talk sauce. This is where the magic really happens. First up, the ragu. This isn't just a quick bolognese. A proper lasagna ragu needs time and love. Start by browning your mince really well in a hot pan with a little olive oil. Get some lovely color on it. That color means flavor. Once it's nicely browned, you can drain off any excess fat if there's loads. Then add your finely chopped sofrito, those onions, carrots and celery, and let them soften and sweeten up with the meat. This builds an amazing flavor basis, so don't rush it. Once your meat and veggies are looking happy, it's time for the next layer of flavor. If you're using wine, add it now and let it bubble away and reduce. This cooks off the alcohol and concentrates that lovely taste. Then in go your tomatoes, whether they're crushed, chopped or passata along with your herbs like bay leaf and oregano. Give it all a good stir, bring it to a gentle simmer, then pop a lid on, turn the heat down low and let it blip away for at least an hour. Ideally 2 or even 3. Slow and low is the key here. This allows all those beautiful flavors to meld together into something truly special. Now for the bechamel, that creamy, dreamy white sauce. Don't be scared of making bechamel, it's easier than you think. Start by melting a good knob of butter in a saucepan over medium heat. Once it's melted, whisk in an equal amount of plain flour. Cook this mixture, called a roux, for a minute or two, stirring constantly. This cooks out the raw flour taste. Then start adding your milk a little bit at a time, whisking like mad after each addition to keep it smooth and lump-free. Gradually it will transform into a lovely, thick, glossy sauce. It's quite satisfying to watch. Once all your milk is in and the sauce has thickened up nicely, it's time to season it. A classic bechamel needs a good grating of fresh nutmeg. It's a game changer, trust me. Then season with salt and white pepper. White pepper looks nicer in a white sauce, but black pepper is fine too. Taste it. Does it need more salt, more nutmeg? Adjust it until it tastes gorgeous. For both your ragu and your bechamel, tasting and seasoning as you go is so important. This ensures every part of your lasagna is packed full of flavor. Happy sauces mean a happy lasagna. Section 6. Building your masterpiece layer by layer. Right, sauces are bubbling away, pasta is prepped. It's assembly time. This is where your lasagna really starts to take shape. First things first, grab your baking dish. A ceramic or glass one is perfect. Lightly grease the bottom and sides of the dish with a little olive oil or butter. This helps to prevent the bottom layer from sticking, which is a simple but important step. Then I like to spread a very thin layer of ragu or even a little bechamel sauce over the base of the dish. This gives the first layer of pasta something moist to sit on and stops it drying out. Now for the fun part, the layering. There's a classic order that works beautifully. Start with a layer of your cooked pasta sheets, slightly overlapping them to cover the sauce. Don't worry if you have to cut or tear some sheets to fit the corners. It doesn't need to be perfect. Next, spread a generous layer of your rich ragu over the pasta. Follow this with a lovely layer of your creamy bechamel sauce, spreading it out evenly. Finally, sprinkle over a good handful of grated Parmesan cheese, and that's one layer done. See, easy peasy. How many layers should you aim for? Well, that's up to you, my friend. Usually, a good lasagna will have between 3 and 5 layers of pasta. This gives you a good balance of pasta, sauce and cheese in every bite. If you make too few layers, it might not feel substantial enough. If you make too many, it can get a bit unwieldy and might overflow in the oven. Make sure you don't fill your dish right to the very brim, as the sauce will bubble up as it bakes. Leave a little headroom, about ½ an inch or so, to avoid a messy oven. For the grand finale, the top layer, you want to make it extra special. After your last layer of pasta, ragu and bechamel, it's time for a generous blanket of cheese. This is where your mozzarella comes into its own, giving you that lovely golden, bubbly, stretchy topping. Sprinkle it all over the bechamel and then add another good grating of Parmesan for extra flavor and color. Some people like to dot a few small knobs of butter on top too, for extra richness and browning, but that's optional. Your masterpiece is now ready for the oven. Section 7, baking brilliance, the golden touch. All right, your beautiful lasagna is assembled and looking absolutely gorgeous. Now it's time to bake it to perfection. First up, make sure your oven is preheated properly. This is really important for even cooking. You're looking for a moderate temperature, usually around 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit. If your oven runs a bit hot, you might want to go slightly lower. Preheating ensures that when your lasagna goes in, it starts cooking straight away at the right temperature, which helps everything cook through evenly and develop that lovely golden top. So get that oven on before you start your final assembly. For the first part of the baking, I always recommend covering your lasagna with a sheet of aluminium foil. Don't press it down tightly onto the cheese or it will stick. You can lightly grease the underside of the foil or create a bit of a tent. Covering it helps in a couple of ways. It stops the top from browning too quickly before the inside is hot and bubbly. It also helps to trap the steam, keeping the lasagna lovely and moist and ensuring the pasta cooks through properly, especially if you've used no-boil sheets. Bake it covered for about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the size and depth of your dish. After that initial covered baking time, it's time for the big reveal. Carefully remove the foil. You'll see that the lasagna is hot and steamy, but the top probably isn't very golden yet. Now pop it back into the oven, uncovered, for another 20 to 25 minutes. This is when the magic happens on top. The bechamel and cheese will start to turn a beautiful golden brown, and the edges will get all lovely and bubbly and a little bit crispy. Keep an eye on it during this stage to make sure it doesn't get too dark. You're looking for that perfect, irresistible golden crust. And now for possibly the hardest part. Resting. I know, it smells incredible and you just want to dive straight in. But trust me on this, letting your lasagna rest for at least 15 to 20 minutes after it comes out of the oven is absolutely crucial. It's a game changer. This resting time allows the sauces to settle and thicken slightly, and the cheese to set up a bit. If you try to cut it too soon, it will be a bit of a molten mess and the layers will just collapse. Patience, my friends. It will be so much easier to cut into neat slices and the flavors will actually be even better. Section 8. Plating up like a pro, making it look gorgeous. So your lasagna has had its beauty sleep and it's ready for its moment in the spotlight. Let's talk about making it look as good as it tastes. How you serve it can really elevate the whole experience. You can serve it straight from the baking dish at the table for a lovely rustic family feel, which is always nice and cozy. Or if you want to plate it up individually like a top chef, choose some nice clean plates. White plates often make food look really vibrant, but any good-looking plate will do. Make sure the rim of the plate is super clean. A little wipe with a damp cloth works wonders. Cutting the lasagna neatly is key for that professional look. That resting time we talked about is your best friend here. Use a good sharp knife. A thin, sharp blade is better than a thick, clunky one. For really clean slices, some chefs dip the knife in hot water and wipe it clean between each cut. This stops the cheese and sauce from dragging and making a mess. Aim for nice, substantial squares or rectangles. You want to be able to see those lovely layers clearly when you look at the side of the slice. Take your time with the cutting, it's worth the effort. Now for the finishing touches. The garnishes. This is where you can add a little bit of chefy flair. A few fresh basil leaves scattered over the top add a lovely pop of green and a beautiful fresh aroma. A tiny drizzle of your best extra virgin olive oil over the slice and a little around the plate can look really elegant and add a touch of peppery fruitiness. And you can never go wrong with an extra grating of fresh Parmesan cheese just before serving. Keep it simple though. You don't want to overload it with garnishes. The lasagna itself is the star. Finally, think about portion size and what you might serve alongside it. A good, hearty slice of lasagna is usually plenty satisfying on its own. But if you want to add a little something extra, a simple green salad with a light vinaigrette is the perfect companion. The freshness of the salad cuts through the richness of the lasagna beautifully. Or perhaps some lovely crusty bread to mop up any extra sauce from the plate. Remember, the goal is to make it inviting and delicious. When it looks good, it tastes even better. Enjoy your gorgeous, professionally plated lasagna. Section 9, Dodging Disasters, Common Lasagna Slip-Ups. Alright, even the best of us can have a little culinary mishap now and then, especially with a dish like lasagna that has a few different components. So let's talk about some common slip-ups and how to dodge them so your lasagna is always a triumph. One frequent problem is a watery lasagna. You cut into it and there's a puddle on the plate. This often happens if your ragu is too wet, or if you haven't drained your vegetables properly if you're making a veggie version. Make sure your ragu has simmered down to a nice thick consistency, and resting the lasagna after baking really helps it set and absorb any excess liquid too. On the flip side, nobody wants a dry, sad lasagna. This can happen if there's not enough sauce in your layers, if you overcook it, or if you bake it uncovered for the entire time. Be generous with your ragu and bechamel. Each layer of pasta needs a good coating. Using that foil tent for the first part of baking is key to trapping moisture. and don't bake it for longer than necessary. You want it hot and bubbly with a golden top, but not dried out. If your sauces seem a bit thick to begin with, you can always loosen them with a splash of milk for bechamel, or a little water or stock for ragu. Another common issue is with the noodles themselves. Sometimes they can end up too hard, or even worse, a complete mush. If your noodles are too hard, it usually means they didn't have enough moisture to cook properly, especially if you're using no-boil sheets with sauces that are too thick. Or perhaps they weren't cooked enough before layering if you were pre-boiling them. If they're too mushy, they were probably overcooked in the initial boiling stage. Remember, al dente is your friend. The pasta will continue to cook a bit more in the oven, so a little bite is good. And finally, the biggest disappointment, a bland lasagna. You've put all that effort in and it just tastes a bit meh. This almost always comes down to seasoning. You need to season every single component of your lasagna. Season the mince when you brown it. Season the sofrito. Season the ragu as it simmers. Taste it and adjust. Season the bechamel properly with salt, pepper, and that lovely nutmeg. Even the pasta water needs to be well salted. Don't be afraid to taste at every stage. Good quality ingredients will give you a head start, but proper seasoning is what brings all those flavors to life. Get that right, and you'll have a lasagna that sings.